At Reed Furniture, we guarantee better results for students with our Learniture range of ergonomic school furniture. We have more than 50 years of experience in designing educational furniture solutions. Reed also offers a range of flexible, modular furniture which is easy to reconfigure. Transform the classroom from a collaborative learning space to a workshop or an instructor-led environment within minutes. What's more, everything comes with a 10 years warranty.
Have you been too wide or?
No, I've either hit them thin or one I forced and the others I hit thin. One I put a touch and check and it ends up hitting a lot of check.
Two shots.
I'm off.
Oh, right. I was trying to do it.
Yeah, I shook your hand, didn't I? Yeah, have a good game. Jason Colebrook for break. Leave it here, yeah?
They've doubled in the middle a few times.
Just no.
32. 35. 38. 41. 43. 45. 47. 49. 51.
'I'll show you that.
Jason Colebrook, 51. Two. 28. 30. 35. Foul. Jason Colebrook, 35. Judy Gilchrist, 2. Two. 4. 7. 10. 13. 16. 18. 21. 23. 26. 28. 31. 34. 36. 39. 41. 44. 46. 49. 51. 52. 42. 65. 68. 71. 73. 76. 78. 81. Both line 180. 83. 86. Both line crossed. 8 Gilchrist. 86. 3. 6. 8. 11. 13. 15. 17.
'Try it though. No, you don't want to.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
You didn't say the score though. You didn't say how many, you didn't say, oh, it's the
Did
score.
No.
I thought I did.
I heard the red first.
Yeah, you
Yeah, didn't I say 29?
No, no.
I thought
I thought you thought I didn't get.
I did. No, I thought you did.
Oh, because you didn't say the
I
score.
wondered why Jason was beating. 32.
I didn't play it, but I got it.
James gone and I do. 24. 37. 101. And then 17. 122. 124. 126. 128. 130. 132. 134. 136. 138. 140. 143. 145. 206. 2. Four. 7. 9. 12. 14. 17. 20. 22. 25. 27. 29. 31. 16. 35. 35. 3.
38. Peter Gilchrist, 38. Two. 26. 29. 31. 34. 36. 39. 42. 44. 46. 48. 50. 52. 55. 57. 59. 50. Gilchrist, 59. 2. 5.
Good evening, everybody. My name is David Walsh, and I'll be commentating the remainder of this game between Peter Gilchrist and Jason Colebrook. A very warm welcome to anybody who's tuning in from Melbourne or Australia, or indeed anywhere in the world. This is the last 16, the 2019 World Billiards Championships. Peter Gilchrist, representing Singapore, has a healthy lead here.
10.
400 points and counting. Jason Colebrook, his opponent, is a very experienced Australian player. Comes from Ballarat in Victoria. Technically, you could say he's a local player, but he's got quite a lot of experience. Played in many tournaments around the world.
18. 20.
So Peter has just lost position at top of the table. And he's missed the cushion cannon. This is a 2.5 hour match with an hour already played. What can Jason pull out of the hat to get back into this game? It's a nice long loser, but he doesn't have the natural pattern to play a drop cannon. Looks like a pot red. That's nicely played.
This one?
Played the pot along the half ball in off angle, but it's awkward bridging this. Never a gimme when you have to use one of those jiggers. Just a few words about myself. Like I said, my name is David Walsh. I represented Ireland at this World Billiards Championship. I was the sole representative. None of the cohort of Irish players travelled per se from the country. I live in Sydney, Australia myself, and this is the country where I first started to play billiards. And it seems more than appropriate that Australia be given an opportunity to host this magnificent event. This is, of course, the land of Walter Lindrum, the undisputed champion of billiards. Billiards is one of those sports where, when you look back over the years and analyse all of the great champions,
13.
there is no dispute as to who was the greatest player of them all. There were many greats from we've just got a query in about the match regarding Pankaj Advani and Sourav Qatari. My colleague here, Dan Lynch, has informed me that Sourav is currently in the lead by about 500 points. I believe that he's made a break of 300 odd, and he's on another 200 break. Pankaj has hardly had a visit to the table. So a local derby match as far as India is concerned, and who knows, it might be an early exit for the great Pankaj Advani. Pankaj, of course, came into this tournament not as one of the top seeds, but very much lower down in the seeds. He had to play David Cowsier in his group match, and he was narrowly defeated this morning in that particular group match. Seedings are, of course, based on performances at WBL events. Pankaj has not competed consistently in those, although he has dominated the IBSF events over the past few years. And of course, Sourav Qatari is the reigning world champion as far as the WBL is concerned.
Gilchrist, 9.
Peter, in his effort to attain top of the table for himself, has inadvertently gifted top of the table to Jason. Might have to be an in-off red here for Jason. The thin cut might not be an option. Well, he manages to play it quite well.
8.
Jason, in his previous knockout match, managed to beat the great Dave Collins. In a reasonably close encounter.
13.
Dave Collins, of course, one of the few players in Australia to have won the National Billiards and the National Snooker.
16.
So that's quite a scalp for Jason. He's still hanging on in this tournament.
Colebrook, 16.
Tricky shot that, given the slick conditions and the tendency of the cushions to slide. So 2 pots off the black spot, which means the red goes to the blue spot. And Peter is comfortably back down for another pot red off the black spot. He will develop the white ball with a cannon.
17.
And that's a nice run through in off the white. Wanted to leave himself in off into the middle pocket so he could get top of the table, but you can see he's bringing that cue ball as close to the green spot as possible. 3/4 ball, lots of check side, and he makes it. Just. Simple pot red. Peter's just trying to engineer top of the table position again.
26.
Might have to screw off the red. Peter is usually quite adept at these shots. Cushion first. Oh no, he's done it direct. Always a risk of a smother with these shots. Well, it seems like he could have seen the potting angle. Jason, my friend, I know your pain. Cushion cannons are very tricky in these conditions. Peter will just bring the white in and out of balk. No. A very delicate in-off. And the white's back in the box. Red's over the bag. And Peter is top of the table in just 3 shots. The red's just finished a little bit high. Probably too high for a pot. And that's a beautifully controlled run through in off. Drop cannon is played as a gathering shot. Can Peter run through and get the cannon? Tricky shot, that. Always the risk of a foul. Oh, Jason's going to try the masse. Peter is considering the screw back, losing header, but it looks like there's a follow through cannon. Well, this is beautifully developed. Perhaps played that drop cannon to get more of a direct contact in the red, but it's worked out okay.
13.
Peter Gilchrist is known as more of a loose top of the table player, quite happy to go around the tables and recover the situation if he runs out of position. But it has been noted over the last few days, particularly in this championship, that he's been playing a very precise brand of top of the table in quite a number of his matches. He's been keeping the cue ball very close to the red spot. Delicate little cannon, brings that white ball closer to where he wants it. Well, that's a surprising miss from Peter. Just seemed to run out of position there. Finished a little bit lower on the red than what he wanted. That's a lovely cannon from Jason. Jason managed breaks of 53 and 69 in his last match against David Collins. He'll certainly need at least that to make some kind of a match of this one, although it is slipping away from him. Might have to force an in off the red, which he does. Just didn't seem to have the half ball. Peter stuck on a devilish score of 666 for a few minutes, but it's about to increase rapidly, no doubt. One of the nicest cue actions you're going to see in the game. Always plays with exquisite style and elegance. Even the simple shots are just meant to look really poetic. So in the other last 16 matches, as we've mentioned, Sourav Qatari has been building a sizable lead over Pankaj Advani. Matthew Bolton is playing Javharia on the other televised table. Mike Russell of England is playing Steve Mifsud. Rob Hall is playing Ryan Mears. Robbie Fulvari, three-time World Billiards champion, is playing Ne Tue U. Dhruv Sipwala of India is playing Michael Pearson from Sydney. Last time I looked in that one, Michael was 100 points ahead with Dhruv at the table and fighting back fiercely. I expect a close contest in that one. And of course the other match is, to my mind, the tournament favourite, Dave Cozier against Steve Brookshaw, also of England. Peter doesn't quite have top, but is working out a way of bouncing that white back into the box. That's another surprising miss. The yellow is over the red spot, which means the red will be placed on the pink spot if you're a snooker player, or the pyramid spot as it's known in English billiards. Jason just played a standard in off Sometimes you would place the ball closer to the brown spot with heaps of running side, which would give you a pot red to the middle pocket or an easy in off. Perhaps an indication that Jason is not entirely comfortable out there and still trying to get used to the slick conditions. Sometimes when you're playing a world-class opponent such as Mr. Gilchrist, you're quite happy to make a few points, but I would expect Jason to make quite a high break at some stage.
Colebrook, 24.
Perhaps a little bit of impatience there from Jason. I felt he could have gone in off the red again, or left a drop cannon, or given himself an easier pot. Trying to get to top of the table a little bit too quickly, perhaps. Very tough player to play against, Jason. Lots of knowledge, very experienced. Always seems to get through his group stage at the WBL events. He's met some quarterfinals, has met some semi-finals, some of the world ranking events that have been held here in Australia. And of course he got to the final of the Oceania Billiards Championships and that was last year in Mounties in Sydney. He lost to the great Joe Manici that particular year. Joe made a 200 break in that final, and Joe also won the final by 200 points. Joe claims that if he didn't make that 200, Jason might have had him. Who knows? Of course, this year's Oceania Billiards champion is none other than Wayne Carey of New Zealand. 75 years young, and he won it for the first time. I'm just going to ask my colleague Dan Lynch here what the result of the Matthew Bolton game is on the other live TV table. I'm sure there are many viewers who would be interested. And it looks like Matthew is comfortably in the lead. He leads 480 to 149. And in some of the other matches, we're getting news in that Dave Cowsier is in the lead by about 700 points. And Saurav Katari has extended his lead against Pankaj Advani. And he too is also 700 points clear. Rob Hall leads Ryan Mears 405 points to 172. And it looks like Dhruv Sipwala has gone clear of Michael Pearson. So despite Michael's very strong start, the scoreline now reads Dhruv 379, Michael 174. So like I said, the man to beat, it seems, is Dave Cowsier. He's been showing the best form so far in this competition. The two highest breaks in the World Championship, they've both been made by David, 463 and 446. The next highest would be the reigning WBL World Champion, Sourav Qatari. Jason just nicks the red. Let's see if he can fashion something here. Another fascinating encounter is Mike Russell and Steve Mifsud. It would be interesting to get an update on that if possible. Steve's been playing really well of late. Has been focusing on his billiards over the last few months. And a lot of people have said that he's got a chance against Mike Russell. Mike hasn't produced his very best yet, although there were signs of Russell at his best in his last match. We don't have any exact score yet for the Russell and Mifsud game, but word has it that it's a really close encounter. Peter just missed that.
Stay in. Mike's 240. Thanks.
So we've just got an update on the Mike Russell and Steve Mifsud match. Mike Russell is currently 240 points in the lead. And we've got just under an hour remaining in these last 16 matches. It's been a grueling day for the players. The final group matches were played this morning, and then we had some last 24 matches. Effectively, 8 players faced off against 8 to decide who would join the top 8 seeds from the groups in the last 16. Jason trying to leave himself a drop cannon there, but didn't quite work out. The yellow ball didn't travel as far as he was expecting. Might go in off the red here, which he does. Brings the red back into the magic circle. Lots of options here. In off red, standard shot, but does he want to collide into the yellow? That was always the risk. He did it deliberately so that he would control where the red goes. So that was nicely played. Can play the drop cannon now, which will bring the red back into the box as a gathering shot. A delicate mini drop cannon here. Just wants to push that red towards the corner pocket. Caught the red too thin. So he's going to have to screw back along the rail into the corner pocket, which he does nicely, and leaves an easy pot red to the middle bag. Doesn't have to do anything spectacular with the red. He's got the yellow ball in prime position. Lots of margin for error with that shot. Seems like he didn't quite have the angle he wanted, so he had to force the cannon slightly. So he's lost a potentially lucrative position at the top end of the table, and he's going to have to recover it again. Yeah, just trying to give himself that in-off yellow into the middle pocket, but missed the long loser. That's a beautiful in-off with lots of right-hand side. Delightful shot that from Peter Gilchrist. So many shots these top players play, they look really, really easy. Believe you me, they're not. Ask any fan of Peter Gilchrist, they'll all tell you the same thing, and it's not so much what he does, it's the way he does it. Another delicate cannon off the white. Red travels a little bit too far. He's going to avoid the pot to play another cannon on the white, which he bounces back towards the red spot. Again, excellent control. Wonderful play from Peter. And in the blink of an eye, he's back in prime position at the top of the table. So it looks like Jason will be sitting out another sizable break here. And like I said, this is very, very precise and compact top of the table. We've been seeing this all week from Peter. Doesn't always play top this way. Yes, he plays floating white, but he's usually more than happy to move that white a few inches. Again, he's moving it by just a few millimeters. This is really fascinating. Are we seeing a little formula being devised here by Peter? A formula that might win him this year's World Championship. Sourav Qatari certainly took the world by storm at last year's championship in Leeds. He very, very unexpectedly won that championship, although he has improved a lot. But it was Sourav's top of the table play that won it out. That really is fascinating. We've had a sequence there of at least 5 pot reds and delicate cannons. And look at that bounce back into the box. That is just absolutely delightful. You just roll this red into the middle pocket. And again, we might see another sequence of delicate cannons and pots. The referee is called balkline warning. The break reaches 83, now 86. Peter will have to cross the balkline before he reaches 100 points. Doesn't quite have the angle on this red. It's up to 94, so Peter's going to have to fashion a balkline crossing very quickly here. He's left an angle on the red. Oh, not quite. Not quite. He's going to have to do it after this shot. Oh dear. Oh dear. He's smiling because he's given himself a huge problem here, and I'm not sure if this cuts into the corner pocket. Oh, it does. It does. And he gets the cannon. It's a 5 shot. Peter gets the century break, but just 103. Albeit a very entertaining one. Peter is representing Singapore at this event. Peter is, of course, originally from Middlesbrough in England. He would have played in that famous Teesside Boys League, which has churned out a lot of talent over the years. Mike Russell, Dave Cosier. They've all come from Middlesbrough. Peter's highest break for the competition so far is 386. He's currently number 3 on the high break leaderboard. Peter's also made 6 breaks over 200, as well as numerous centuries and breaks in the 90s and 80s. So far, 5 players have met breaks over 300 at this World Championship. David Cosier, Saurav Katari, Peter Gilchrist, Mike Russell and Pankaj Advani. Although it looks like it's going to be an early exit for Pankaj at this particular event. Perhaps signs of fatigue are starting to show as both players have missed a couple of easy shots. And there's another one from Jason. Peter is about 600 points in the lead. He probably feels that the job is done at this stage. .42 minutes remaining. I fully expect Peter to get well over 1,000 points in this match. Left himself a cannon here. She plays with a little bit of right hand side, running side. This year's World Billiards Championship has been kindly sponsored by Endeavour Life Care, and the World Women's Billiards Championship, which is also going to be run over the weekend, is sponsored by Silex Ergonomics. I believe the two ergonomic office chairs you see in the background there, one of which Jason is seated upon, have been kindly supplied by Silex. This is the grand finale table. We all know of the famous or the infamous pit in Leeds. Well, we've got our own here at the RACV club in Melbourne. Oh, that's just a beautiful pot. Right in the heart of the pocket. You cannot help but wonder, some of these top billiards players, if they had ever put their minds to it, they would have competed with the likes of John Higgins and Ronnie O'Sullivan and Mark Williams and all of the top snooker players. But it is a different sport. Tricky little pot, this. Yeah, always difficult along the rail. Peter's up to 919 points. Jason desperately trying to get over the 300 mark. This is a 2.5 hour match. It's a long time to be stuck in the cage with a wild animal.
Jason Colebrook, 6.
It's funny how you miss pots against the top players that you wouldn't get against other players. There might be a tendency in some of these knockout matches, if the job is already done, some of the top players with intentions of going all the way, they might ease off the gas and not quite produce the same level of performance at the tail end of a match. Certainly doesn't apply in a group match when they're trying to rack up as many points as possible to get the strongest seeding that they can get for the draw. Peter was just eyeing up a possible in off white, but it just wasn't quite on. Might just play a little in off white and bring it back towards the magic circle. Plays a 6 shot. which is known here in Australia as a pair of trousers. Deliberately played it because he knew he had the drop cannon off the white. Well, Dan, I know you've been in and out to check the results. I was in myself the first half hour of these knockout matches, and I have to say the atmosphere is just absolutely electric in the room at the moment. It is serious business at this stage. Some of the players are now starting to bring in the wives and girlfriends and family. There's a travelling cohort of Indians watching their players play. The English players are all pulling together. If one gets knocked out, they'll shout for the other guy. But I have to say there's been a wonderful sense of camaraderie amongst the various nationalities and even amongst the various abilities. It truly is a gentleman's sport. Peter is now back in the groove, playing reverse, top of the table. He's picked up the pace as well. The break goes to 74. He will be getting a polite warning from the referee. Not that he's in any trouble, it's just that he has to cross the baulk line. The curtain raising event, the World Open, did not apply the baulk line crossing rule, but this one does, as it is a level 5 world ranking event. Peter runs through with a nice arc on that yellow ball. It's 2 off the spot, but he has crossed the baulk line. And it looks like we're going to see another century here from Peter Gilchrist. Oh dear. It's another break in the 90s. Very often when you see a player make a 95 in the stats, there's a tendency to think, well, the baulk line crossing rule must have got him, but on that occasion, Peter had crossed, and it was just a standard loser that he missed. Well, it looks like Jason has left an easy in off here for Peter. And the red is over the bag, so we might see a sizable break here. What Peter's going to try and do is, at some stage, is get the white ball. Well, oh, he's completely surprised me there. He's obviously in exhibition mode. Well, what about that? A multiple cushion cannon. Peter is one of these creative players. Always likes to entertain the crowd, especially when the job is more or less done, as it is here. You've got the creative types such as Peter, and a fantastic player from Myanmar called Pauk Sa, who I had the pleasure of watching this morning. Wonderful array of shots. Then you've got the precise players such as Mike Russell. Matthew Bolton of Australia, he's also very much a precision top of the table player. Tricky little in-offs those. Well, I didn't think that was on, but that was a nice in-off from Peter. And that's just delightful. 1,020 points and counting. So 28 minutes remaining. We'll try and get some further updates on the other tables. We might try and see if we can get an update from table 1. Matthew Bolton against Jav Haria, the other live stream. And it looks like Matthew Bolton will be sealing his place in the quarterfinals very soon. He currently leads 714 to 266. Bit of a surprise result that. I was expecting a closer game. Jav Haria is the new kid on the block. Improved rapidly over the last couple of years. Got to the final of the World Open just a couple of days ago and gave Dave Cosger an almighty scare. Rob Hall is in the lead by 300 points, 638 to Ryan Mears 318. To be expected, Rob is quite an experienced player at this stage. Ryan is a very, very talented cueist, relatively new to billiards, a snooker convert, as most of us are. Dhruv Sipwala is romping home against Michael Pearson. He now leads 632 points, and Michael Pearson is on 230. Well, he's obviously kept Michael in his chair for that one, because Michael did lead by about 100 points at the start of that game. We've got some wonderful technology here at our hands. The billiards room is replete with roving cameras, which can zoom in and check the scores. It's a fantastic technology. Gone are the days of pigeons. Peter is now top of the table. The balls are in perfect position for a monster break. Looks like that's all she wrote for Mr. Colebrook at this year's World Championship. But he's had a good run. Peter was the national coach of Singapore, but is now proudly representing the nation on the international stage. He will be competing at the Southeast Asia Games in a few months. The big prize there, of course, is the gold medal, which is the be-all and end-all for Asian cue sports. A number of disciplines are represented: billiards, snooker, and 9-ball pool, I believe. Jason in arrears by 800 points. Can he fashion some kind of a break? I managed a 44 against David Cowsier yesterday. Let's see if he can beat that. Almost like an exhibition match at this stage. There's no way Jason can catch this colossal lead of Peter's. You can bet your bottom dollar that Peter's going to play a few exhibition shots towards the end of this one. I have to say the facilities at this year's World Billiards Championship have been absolutely superb. Feedback from the players has been very positive. A wonderfully ornate billiards room. A real sense of history and prestige at the RACV club. And you've got this wonderful photograph of Walter Lindrum in the corner next to table number 1. A beautiful portrait. It's got that classic Walter Lindrum smile, which is the table that Matthew Bolton is now playing on against Jav Haria. So I suppose you could say that Walter is still smiling, perhaps. Matthew currently the best Australian billiards player by a country mile. Nobody can get near him. And it looks like he's comfortably through to the quarterfinals.
Two.
A condition of entry at this year's championship for the travelling players was that they stay at the RACV club. A fantastic facility. Lots of eating and dining and drinking options. The food is excellent. The wine isn't bad. And the company isn't too shabby either. It's not so much about the mates you travel with, but it's the mates that you make along the way. Just the other night, the Irish team, represented by myself, and the Malaysian team, represented by Adwin Tay. We went out for Indian food, and we bumped into a number of the guys on the Indian team. So Jason has developed top of the table. His break is up to 25 and counting. Let's see if he can make a big one. Trickles the red in. Ideally he would like to play a cushion first cannon to bounce the yellow back into the box, which he does. Wants to finish high in the yellow so he can play a cannon, and play the cannon in such a way that the yellow goes back below the red. Lots of left hand side to bring that yellow across. Nice shot from Jason. That little deft screw back. Got a nice angle on the red. He could play a delicate screw back, or he might push through. Decides to push through, so he's going to try and play the cushion first cannon. Might not have the angle for it. Could play with right hand side. Just a touch of right hand side. Back in prime position here. And this is a nice little sequence of top of the table here from Mr. Colebrook. Albeit too little too late. The break goes to 51, which is another official high break. Players must score 50 points or more to register a high break at this championship. As far as I know, Jason's highest break is 69. So let's see if he'll be getting his first warning. Jason is a century breaker in billiards. Plays to a reasonable standard at a national level. And he's controlling the balls quite nicely. in this break.
66.
Doesn't want to pot the red. Doesn't want to pot the red. Well, it's the curse of top of the table. Has a little cannon and plays it nicely. So he might just still be able to retain top here. He's going to run through and glance off the yellow with this shot. Wants to give himself a pot red. Might go in off. Might not have a desirable potting angle. Yes, so he goes in off. The break's up to 76. Will Jason get a warning from the referee? He's played that nicely. This is called the reverse drop cannon. It's where the red is in the middle of the table and the yellow's at the top end. It's going to have to be cushioned first. He gets it. 81. Balkline warning. Jason Colebrook. Oh, he was trying to Peter Gilchrist shot. The smile says it all. I'm sure Gilly appreciated the attempt. Well, that was nice. That was a nice break from Jason. Always nice to give a good account of yourself. Well, not only is Peter one of the best players around, he's also one of the most popular players on the tour. Always has a kind word to say to everybody, very down-to-earth guy. Loves the crowd. The bigger the audience, the more the exhibition shots. And now we're going to see some nurseries. Oh, this is just wonderful. I count 6, 7, 8 cannons in a row. This is what they call taking the balls for a walk. Try to get it back again the other way. Now, what's on the cards? How many cushions? Dan says 15 cushions. 3 cushions? A very entertaining 47 break from Peter Gilchrist. That was, of course, a foul, so Jason has elected to respot the balls. a standard shot in billiards where the aim is to leave yourself either a drop cannon or an in-off opponent's ball into the middle pocket.
Colebrook, 6.
So this last 16 match has descended into exhibition mode. Peter has taken care of business very early on. Jason just trying to get as many consolation points as he can. So that picture of Walter Lindrum on table 1, I wonder is he still smiling? He must be still smiling. Matthew is well ahead. Then again, who would Walter shout for? Is he shouting for the Aussies or is he just shouting for good billiards? Peter is looking towards the other tables. There's obviously a few close encounters. No doubt nails being bitten to the quick as we speak. Jason has loosened up a little bit and starting to play the way he can play. Obviously when you're so far behind, it's you don't feel the nerves anymore. I'm sure he'd be delighted if he managed 500 points against the great Peter Gilchrist. Oh, just misses. Peter is not one of these ruthless players in a situation like this. He'll very often decide to play an exhibition match or he'll ease off the gas. I do know from playing Mr. Cowsier twice that he will just keep scoring. Just a couple of inches there and he would have got a magnificent round the table cannon. And it's another foul. Jason smiles. He knows the game is done. And he knows that Peter is letting him have a little bit of play. Now what's Peter going to do? Just a standard cannon? Play that as an underarm stroke. Peter is the only player I know that plays that shot. There is one player in snooker who plays it, Mark Williams, and plays it quite effectively. It tends to be a tall player's shot. Jason Colebrook is obviously the boss as far as World Billiards Limited is concerned. He's also head of Billiards Australia, and Jason has done incredible work to get Australian billiards back on the map with lots of events attracting the best players in Australia to travel around the country for various world ranking events. Peter Gilchrist has visited on numerous occasions. Sydney Open, South Australian Open, the Pacific Open. We even have events in Queensland and down in Illawarra, New South Wales. So Jason has worked tirelessly for the game of billiards, and himself and quite a few others have worked really hard to get this World Championships hosted by Australia. I've played in quite a few venues myself, all around the country. I'm representing Ireland, but I live in Sydney, Australia, so I've had the pleasure of learning the game here in Australia over the last 3 or 4 years. And I have to say this venue is the best I've ever played in. And quite a few of the players share that view. It's been a superb week. It really has. And it's been really wonderful to meet all the English players, the Indian players, and to see the Myanmar players play billiards in the flesh. Really, really incredible. None of them have a word of English, but the way they carry themselves, they too are real gentlemen and fantastic billiards players. We're trying to figure out where they get these array of shots from. We all suspect that they have a Carom background. Certainly Pauk Sa, he was magical today in his game with Peter Gilchrist. He lost by 500 points, but still, some of the breaks he made and the shots he played were just absolutely stunning. Incredible match that. In just 90 minutes, it was about 800 points to 300. At one stage in that game, the referee had to move the lampshade so that Pauk Sa could play a masse, which he successfully delivered. Jason goes round the houses. Not a bad shot. He still has a in-off red. Touch a screw. Nicely played. Well, it looks like he's going to get his 500 points. Plays the cannon. Plays it with pace. He just had that smile on his face because he knew it was a tricky shot. So it's another supreme performance from Peter Gilchrist. This, I'm sure Jason won't mind me saying, hasn't been a tough workout. But just marvellous once again to see the brilliance, the elegance and the sheer poetry of this man. He's come to Australia many times and he loves it here. Another underarm shot.
12.
Nicely played. No more time for top. Seconds remaining. And it's a comfortable victory for Peter Gilchrist. Some of the buzzers are starting to go off. Peter still has time for an exhibition shot. And that's all she wrote. Jason Colebrook is eliminated. Peter Gilchrist goes through. My name is David Walsh, and it's been an absolute pleasure commentating on this game. Please stay tuned for the next few days for what promises to be an absolutely bonanza of billiards. Thank you for listening.